Ladies and gentlemen, the story you're about to hear is true. Only the top of the host's head has been hidden to protect a receding hairline.
Merry Christmas to me, and also turned 40, so I got me a present. Now what could it be?
Sorry about that. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. My name's Danny Riggs, and you're on ResTube. Today I've got something very, very special I'd like to share with you. But before we actually get into that, I'd like to say I'm doing this to share with everyone that was not as fortunate as I was, because this sold out within hours. And not only did I have the luck of being at the right place at the right time, I could actually even afford it. But who knows? Maybe I'll even start a trend of people showing off stuff that I would like to see. Wink, wink, hint, hint. But before I open this, I'd like to explain the contents just a little. So what better source could there be than the Residence homepage itself, residence.com. Dated December 17th, 2020, this news update was entitled, "The Worst Idea I Ever Had." Homer Flynn, Captain Doc of the Crypto Corporation here. Back in the late 1970s, I had the idea of creating what I planned to be a fantastic series of collectible Residence box sets. The sets would be based on the Third Reich Enrolled, Fingerprints, and Eskimo albums, and each would come in a handmade wooden box. The Third Reich Enroll was to be the first, so I hired a woodworker to make 200 boxes. Then we silkscreen printed the covers. The set was to be enclosed in a bag made from a section of Christo's famous fence and contain work from several well-known artists, but as they say, the best-known plans. Years passed as every step of the process became overly complicated and time-consuming, with the final blow being a trip to the emergency room with a massive headache I contracted while spray painting the boxes with glossy black car enamel. Buried inside a pair of heavy coveralls, wearing gloves, and underneath a respirator mask with my head throbbing, I became increasingly confused and disoriented until, nearly unconscious, my helper shoved me into his truck and hurried me off to the hospital, where they discovered a rubber band that I had wrapped tightly around my head in order to keep the hair out of my eyes. Relieved of this demonic and constrictive device, I quickly recovered, but my desire to create amazing box sets vanished along with the rubber band. But since we had actually pre-sold several sets, we had to complete a limited number. So 25, along with 5 artist proofs, were eventually made. I even have one. The next set was to be Eskimo, which was intended to be a fur-covered box containing 2 white vinyl records, with grooves on one side of the discs and fur on the other. Somewhere back in my fur-covered memory, I have the vague recollection that a few of those were actually made, but my enthusiasm had long since vanished, so I can't say with certainty if that actually happened or not. As for the Fingerprints box set, it completely vanished in the mist of time, until now. 40 years after bailing on part 3 of the worst idea I ever had, Residence fan and collector par excellence, Yanis, as a total labor of love, has taken it upon himself to complete the horrible idea trilogy by creating the Fingerprints box set, rechristening it with the project's original name, Tourniquet of Roses. And now it can be yours. Tourniquet of Roses is a limited edition of 15, only 14 will be sold. And it was updated to read, "And all 14 have been sold." While we're here, how ironic is it that the album was to be called Tourniquet of Roses and that it was a rubber band, get the irony, that actually caused the project to be disbanded. Isn't that great? Now that we know all that, just a few quick facts about the Fingerprints album. Fingerprints was the 3rd release by the Residence. That's not true. What the? Fingerprints was the 3rd Residence LP, recorded between 1974 and 1976, originally released on February 15th, 1977. It was initially planned to be a 3-sided album. What that means, what that would have been like, we might get into all that later. But suffice it to say that it had to be split up. And it was split up into the Fingerprints LP and an EP, or a 45, later released under the name of Baby Fingers. And so, without further ado, let's get into the contents of this box. I'm going to be very careful opening this, of course. And Yanis made some very good suggestions on how to do that. First of all, I'm making sure not to cut too deep. But it looks like it's very securely packed, and so I won't worry about that all too much. That seems to be a little extra something. Thank you very much, Danny. Wish you a wonderful 2021, Yanis. And of course, wishing you the very same. And now for the good part, to actually get this bad boy out of here. Before I do, as you can see, the Residence Tourniquet of Roses Collector's Edition. This was a very limited release. Only 15 of these were made, and an additional artist proof that is in Yanis' own collection. And he warned me to lay this down to open it up because some Christmas wrapping paper, very nice. Oh, well, if you know anything about the Residence, you have surely heard about Santa Dog. Santa Dog was the very first release now associated with the Residence, although you won't find the band name anywhere on the release itself. I don't have an original, but in the words of Elvis Presley, if I can dream. So that's a very nice bonus, and thanks a lot, Yanis. That's really beautiful. And now for the box. And now for the actual box itself. I want to be really careful about opening this. I see some tape over here. Good old bubble wrap. Yes, I could be using the X-Acto knife, but I could cut into the cloth, so I'm not going to do that. This is heavy, boy. This is heavy duty. Jiminy. There we go. Now, there, of course, we have the project name, Tourniquet of Roses, and the collector's edition, and the official product tag by the Residence. So, I'm sure this opens on one side, just to find out where. Ooh. Nope, no glue. Actually laminated. So, to open this very carefully. Now, there are a lot of releases by the Residence. I think right now I have somewhere around 350. That is LPs, singles, and CDs, and DVDs and VHS tapes. Kind of forgot that one. And with a lot of the releases, I've never actually opened them. Anyone who collects action figures will know that mint in box is more valuable. So I tried to refrain from opening if I don't absolutely have to and want to. Okay, and there it is, number 10 of 15. And I already know that I will be opening this. It's going to be hard on me, but I'm going to have to. Oh, Velcro. Can't stand the sound of Velcro. Getting close, boys and girls. This is going to be particularly hard for me to do in a second, because not only am I actually going to open this, I'm going to have to be very careful because it has a seal on it. A very nice looking golden seal by the Residence. But as I can see, yes, I don't have to actually cut it to get in. Here's the shirt that goes along with this whole project. Maybe I'll give it a try on, maybe I won't. Once again, it is a collector's item. And before I open this, just to give you a look at the cover of it. Beautiful, just beautiful. Very carefully open this. It's a very, very sturdy and very heavy wooden box. There we go. So there is the front side, which is from the artwork of the original release of Fingerprints. Not to be confused with Fingerprints. It is about a prince. Not really about it, but it is Fingerprints with CE. And on the flip side, there is baby fingers. And the first thing that I'm looking at in here is the Certificate of Authenticity. Now, a lot of you collectors out there will already know these. I've got a few myself already. Always nice to have, though. The Residence and the Cryptic Corporation Certificate of Authenticity. This certifies that I am the proud possessor of Tourniquet of Roses box set, which is guaranteed certified by the Residence and the Cryptic Corporation and Mondo Cool. Agreed. Next thing in here is a very nice laminate that also shows the artwork of both and has an explanation about the whole project on the back. I suppose I could read this to you guys. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. And now to the truly good stuff. And this is where it's going to get really hard for me. So before we actually look at the contents, I just have to show you guys this, which is velvet and a very, very nice rendition of the Residence, I'm going to say logo for want of a better word, that if I'm not mistaken, and correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, this font, as we would say today probably, was first used for fingerprints. I think that's right. This has become very, very well known and is just beautiful. Put this aside. And then of course we have fingerprints. The front and the back. Now if you know your res lore, of course, you will recognize this picture as the legendary live performance, the one-off gig. I can't quite recall where. I want to say rather Ripped Records, but that could be wrong. But I do know that the guitar you can see here in the background was played by Snakefinger that evening, who, if memory serves right, was dressed as a huge piece of broccoli. And of course, the four mummies you can see there are the Residents. And in a clear plain sleeve, here we have the accompanying Baby Fingers record. This is a one-sided disc. It is this side that can be played, although mine never will. And this is also, I would say, a reworking of the original Baby Fingers. And this is the back, which is a simple picture disc, but no grooves on this side, so all the music is on this side of the album. And before we get to the last of the goodies in this box, I'm actually going to open this up, because of course we have to look at the record itself also. There we go. I see a black sleeve, and inside it is the album. I don't know how well you can pick that up, but it's a beautiful, beautiful shade of gold. This is what is called a late cut, which means that this was cut by hand and not by a machine. This goes right back in, and will also never be played. At least not as long as it's mine. Let's put it that way. Also here you can see 10 of 15. I'll leave that out so I can show it to my wife, and we'll put baby fingers itself aside also. To get to the last of the goodies in here, and this is a resealable bag, so I might as well do it. You know that feeling? Oh. This is accompanied by not one, but by 2 hand puppets. And I guess I should take them out. Very soft inside. I'm not actually going to put them on. There's no point in that. Also with an official product stamp. I do like the look of these. These are very reminiscent of hand puppets that were released, I believe, in the 80s. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't have them, but I do know that there are 2 hand puppets out there of the main characters of the mole show, being there is a mole and a chub. If you're a Residence fan but don't know what I'm talking about, definitely check that out. That is one of my absolute favorite periods of their work, and actually one of the very first things I ever saw online that really sold me on the Residence. Just on a side note, I have only known the band for about 4 years now, and they have since become one of my all-time favorites, and I am just still in awe of their sheer output and creativity, and also the fact that they defy any type of categorization. They are, in my mind, a true original, and I just can't state how enamored I still am by them. I guess, for the time being, that'll be it for now. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please hit the button and subscribe, of course, if you would like to see other content like this. And if you're interested, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all that jazz. I'd like to give a special thank you and hello to Yanis for making this set, and also to Homer Flynn of the Cryptic Corporation for allowing me to actually read from the Residence homepage. And as always, stay weird. You guys take care.